mynews.studio.
In 2025, rivers that were once blocked by concrete barriers are now flowing freely. Bison are roaming in new grasslands, and vultures are circling skies that had been empty for years. So how did the idea of rewilding move from something on the fringes to a global movement?
Today is 2026-0202. Let's begin by considering the scale of the crisis that pushed rewilding forward. For decades, we fragmented habitats with things like dams, roads, and overhunting. Why did those particular actions matter so much?
Fragmenting habitats broke the natural connections between species and their environments. For example, building a dam doesn't just stop water. It blocks fish from migrating and alters how sediments move. Over time, this leads to fewer species and weaker ecosystems. Look at Europe. Illyri and Vindel rivers had dams removed as part of rewilding Europe's work. That freed up stretches of river that hadn't run wild in decades.
The numbers really stand out. In Sweden's Nordic Taiga project, they took out 3 dams and opened up more than 100 kilometers of waterway. That's not just about the fish, right? The surrounding habitats recover too. So how do these physical changes actually lead to increases in biodiversity?
Once the barriers are gone, species can start to move again. In Bulgaria, for instance, 27 cinereous vultures were released in the Rhodopes and have begun forming a breeding colony. And it's not limited to birds. European bison are coming back to areas where they haven't lived for centuries. These aren't just isolated events. For example, in Australia, numbats had quadruplets in the wild, and plains wanderers, which were thought to be on the edge, are now doing well. Why does this matter for the broader ecosystem?
Keystone species can set off major changes in ecosystems. Take Yellowstone. When wolves were reintroduced, they kept deer populations in check, which allowed trees to grow back, and that brought back beavers and birds. It's a kind of ripple effect, and it's not only on land. Off Poland, seagrass restoration is underway, and in the Philippines, mangrove forests are regenerating. Both of these habitats store carbon and help local fisheries.
None of this would be possible without collaboration. In the past year, the Global Rewilding Alliance grew from 225 to 286 partners. These groups are working in wetlands, rangelands, and marine areas, sharing knowledge and involving local communities. In the Velebit Mountains, for example, hunters who once opposed rewilding are now partners. And in the Scottish Highlands, community projects are gaining traction. But why is involving communities so important?
When communities are involved, projects last longer. If people see benefits, like more nature tourism or better fisheries, they're more likely to support and protect these areas. Policy and funding are also catching up. For example, Rewilding Europe's Land Fund raised over 9 million euros and secured 8,000 hectares for restoration. Do you think these approaches could work in other regions too?
Yes, they can. The IUCN's global guidelines for rewilding offer practical frameworks, and Ramsar's latest reports now include wild animals in wetland policies. In North America, wildlife crossings have reduced road collisions by as much as 90%, and now those designs are being used elsewhere. The EU is also adding rewilding to its nature restoration plans, so we're seeing templates that make scaling up possible.
So, to sum up, rewilding boosts biodiversity, helps with climate resilience, and can benefit local economies. The big story of 2025 is that coordinated, science-based efforts, backed by good policy and local engagement, are turning things around. But do you see any big obstacles ahead?
The main challenge is keeping up momentum. It's tough to keep funding, political support, and community interest moving in the same direction. But the progress so far shows what's possible. Continued innovation and teamwork will be crucial. What these landscapes will look like in another 5 years is definitely worth watching.
So, just to recap, dam removals restored rivers, keystone species returned, local partnerships formed, and new policies helped rewilding spread. It's moving from something niche to something much more mainstream. But the next steps are going to need everyone on board.
Thanks for following along as we explored rewilding's return, from rivers to grasslands and everything in between.
Thank you for listening. This episode was produced by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.